If you are a creative and you lack direction, or you might have material success but you still feel unfulfilled, or you've got a really tough time making life decisions, you kind of get spiraled out, this is for you. And even if you aren't a creator, if you still are dealing with those big issues, this is exactly why I wanted to make this video. Because a little background, I spent my 20s broke as a joke, pursuing my passion and not being able to pay any of my bills for about 10 years until I figured out these questions to ask myself. And throughout the years, I've asked my friends and then clients, and a lot of folks have benefited from these 4 questions in this sequence. So I wanted to share them with you in hopes that it will help you out and help free you up from all that frustration that you might be dealing with. So if that is you, then welcome, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Now, I don't want to drag this out any longer than I have to because, hey, you have a whole life to live, and I want to get this to you as quickly as I can. So the first question that you should ask yourself is, what can you do that the world needs? That should be a pretty big list of things. And even if you think that's not going to be a big list, that's because you might have a lot of other layers on top of this. I mean, think about it. You might be able to move boxes, and there are a lot of folks that need boxes moved. Is it glamorous? No. Who cares? It's still awesome because it's a thing that the world needs. So go through and list everything that you can do that somebody else in the world might need done. And if you find that that is a short list, then again, examine those limitations that you might have on yourself or in your head about what's allowed on that list. So that inner critic, and if you didn't see the video I made last week about how you can deal with haters, and the number one hater you have to deal with is yourself and your inner critic, then go watch that. It's near the end, and then come back and catch up here. Then you would see that that list is probably much bigger. So that's the first question. What can you do that the world needs? And all of that, write it down so that you've got it in front of you, and then we move on to the others. But these are all your potential missions, the things that could be your core mission in life. This is it, because the world needs more of this, and I can do that. The world needs this problem solved. I can solve that. The world needs this other problem solved, and I can solve that one too. So these are kind of all the missions that you have laid out in front of you. These are all your options. So that's why I need you to record them so that we're going to work with this list that you build answering this first question. So once you have that, let's move over to the second question. Now, this second question is the first filter that we're going to apply to the whole list that you created in the first question. And now, of all of these that the world needs that you can provide or solve or shorten or lengthen or whatever, of all those things that you're capable of, second question, what are those things that you can get paid for? What are the things that people are willing to pay for? And this might be a difficult question to answer, especially if you are an entrepreneur or you're a coder coming up with something that's never been done before, and the world doesn't need, or the world doesn't know they need this, and nobody's ever bought it because I'm the one who's going to create it. That could work. That could work. But also, if there's no market for something and it has existed for a little while at least, then it might not be the best thing to invest a lot of time and effort into, it might be great. Might be great. However, um, if you are selling something, it's easier to sell something that a lot of people are already buying. A lot of folks are like, "Oh, that market is oversaturated." Well, the health, beauty, and wellness industry is super saturated, and I just talked with a company that has 200% growth in their first 2 years of existing, and they're on track to keep that going for the foreseeable future. So one of the most heavily congested, oversaturated markets, and they're making millions of dollars a month in their first 2 years. It's not that it's oversaturated, it's that lots of people are already buying stuff in that market. So, what of all those things that you can provide to the market, what are all of them in terms of stuff people pay for and pay a lot of money for? So, for example, you might be a web developer, and my mom isn't going to pay a lot for a website, but a company might buy one for $60,000, and you could do it fairly easily in your sleep. It feels easy for you, and it almost feels weird to charge so much money, but it's because what's easy for you is not going to be easy for anybody else. And everybody in the world needs a website, a place to call home on the internet. So that's something that the world needs, that some folks at least will pay a lot of money for. And that means that it makes it through to the next round. So, of all the things that you can do that the world needs, what are those that there's a market for them and people will pay you for them? Move those forward, leave everything else where it is, and then move the paying ones farther down on the page. That gets us to question 3. Of those that people will pay you for, what are you really good at? Like, be honest with yourself, not something that you want to be good at, that you're working at being good at. What are you genuinely really good at? And filter those in, right? Everything else stays where it is. Move those forward that you're genuinely good at. One thing that always made me laugh was something that my dad told me when I was growing up. Anytime that we were doing something new, like we built a woodworking shop together when I was like 9 years old or something. My brother and I and my dad and my grandpa. So the four of us built a wood shop that stood for 20 years or something like that. Like it's actually still standing today. So it was a lot of fun. It was difficult, and it's at the end. Dad says like, "Well, by the time you get good at something, it's about time to stop." Because by the time we got good at building that shop, we had built the shop, and we weren't going to go into business for it. So we got better, and we got good compared to how we started, but it's not like that we were the best in the world at this thing, because lots of folks need shop. A lot of folks will pay money to have a shop built, but that was not our skill set that was the best. So there are a lot of things that I'm really good at because I've had a whole career's worth of time to myself, because as a touring performer, I would go do a show, I would go do a speaking engagement, and then come home and then be home for a couple of weeks. All that time to myself to do whatever I want. So without a 40-hour-a-week job for 20 years, and you go on the 10,000 hour rule of thumb, then I had about 50,000 hours to myself to get good at 5 things. So to me, those things are building websites, coaching and consulting, helping people in mindset, in sales, and being a professional mind reader. I'm one of the best in the world at doing that. There aren't that many mind readers in the world, and of them, I'm pretty darn good. there are people that are better than me, but I know all of them. They're friends of mine. So I am literally world class at several things. And that's why I actually like sharing stuff like this on YouTube. So if you are getting any value out of this or videos, just give it a like, or if you want to make it official, consider subscribing. That's the pitch. That's it. We'll get back into it. But basically, what are you really, really good at that people will pay money for that you have that the world needs? That gets us most of the way there. And we'll now move into the last question. Now, of the things that you are phenomenal at, that people will pay money for, that the people in the world need, of those things down here that have made it, what do you enjoy the most? Like, seriously, what's your favorite one of those things? Now, before you answer, let's have a short chat, because in high school, in debate class, Bob Yutzy, Mr. Yutzy, hi if you're watching this, uh, we would watch videos that were thought-provoking and interesting PBS specials and that kind of thing. I remember we watched like a 30-minute show where everybody bought and sold time of their life. So the currency wasn't dollars, it was minutes of their life. And that has always stuck with me. And there was a special that we watched one time called A Poor Man Shames Us All. And it was a juxtaposition of a guy, I think it was in Borneo. I'm not sure. This was a very long time ago. But he was putting on a funeral for his dad, and he had the idea of moving this rock as a monument to place it somewhere. And in order to get that done, he called in every favor for every single person he knows. He had to kill every goat he had to feed everybody. Somebody's leg got crushed or something, and he had to take care of that. So basically, every bit of material wealth that he would have, he had to give to everybody that was coming to help. And he called in every favor he had on record. And he was the happiest guy on the planet because he was going, look how rich I am. Look at how many people are here to help me honor my family. These people showing up is a testament to me, and it's an honor to have this many friends and connections. And now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, wow, yeah, having more than one person able to show up on time to a thing is seriously impressive. And then they also highlighted a garbage truck driver from New Jersey and followed him in his life, and they were following high paid executive for a while. The high paid executive was making the most money. He was also super miserable. His life was falling apart. The garbage truck driver was super happy. He was like, I've got a beautiful daughter. I've got a wonderful family. I'm happier than I ever could be, happier than I ever could have imagined being. And the psychology research really backs that up, which is that you aren't happy doing the things you're happy with in terms of like a job. You wind up being happy with the jobs that provide you the most control over your time and energy. So the garbage job provided a lot of control in the off time and provided a lot of control over how he could provide for his family and the decisions that he would make in reference to how he spent his time, who it was with, and that kind of thing. And you wind up getting more control, being good at something, and then you learn to love the thing that provided that level of control over your time and environment and all that. So it's not that doing the thing you think you love makes you love it. It's that you wind up loving the thing that sets you free to be able to call the shots. And in order to call shots, you've got to be really good at that thing. So when you're making that decision of what's the thing that you love, I'm not talking about following your passion, because following your passion will burn your life down. That's probably why you're miserable right now, is because we creatives have been sold on that idea of follow your passion, ignore anything else, devote everything to your passion, no matter how little money it makes you, no matter how miserable you are, no matter if you have to miss your grandparents' funerals, both of them, all four of them, because you're too broke to make it to the funeral on time. Hi, that's me in my 20s talking. That was my breaking point of knowing, okay, I'm trying to do this thing this way. I'm trying to follow my passion, and it just wasn't working. And I had learned to hate the thing that I thought I would spend my life loving. Now, eventually, came back around to it, and that's a whole other story in and of itself. But I learned and let go of that belief that I have to follow my passion, and doing something that pays well that I'm not all that enthusiastic with is selling out in some kind of moral failing. I can't tell you how happy I was when I could pay my bills on time and get caught up on everything. That was better than following my passion ever was. So getting myself out of the hole that I dug for years, for years, was worth everything, of learning that, oh, I'm actually really good at this and I enjoy this thing, sales, that I thought I would never enjoy, but realized that it was always a part of what I had been doing anyway. So that's the easiest way to trip at the last yard line, is to go, all right, what do you really enjoy? And then you ignore all this and then go right back to pursuing your passion. So that's why I wanted to share that kind of personal note about my past, my history of burning my life down, so that you don't take it to mean the thing you're most passionate about. It's of the things that made it through these filters at the bottom here of these, which could you learn to love the most, and then go all in on that. Now, that filtering process, you might be familiar with it, but you might have seen it in a different form. And it's most often presented online as a Venn diagram overlap, and it's called Ikigai, which I'm pretty sure I'm butchering, but I tried. So, if you want to dive further into this and be able to diagnose what having two of the correct things but missing out on the other two, or three and one, and kind of having a strong mission but feeling frustrated because you can't pay your bills, but you could pay your bills, but you feel hollow because you're not on mission, you're not working on something that's in alignment with your values. So I wanted to present them in this order because, to me, that is the most logical sequence. And when you're presented with the Venn diagram overlaps, it's easy to jump around and go, oh, okay, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. But really go through it in that sequence, and you will have a few options that have the best chance of helping you feel fulfilled, happy with what you're doing, have meaningful engagement with your time, and also have enough money to get yourself out of the hole that you've dug by trying to ignore all of the good advice of don't quit your day job. Because like I absolutely hate people that will tell you to quit your job to go pursue your passion, hate them with an unholy passion. I think that is bad, wrong, borders on evil, and maybe I could do a whole video on that if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on that. So to that end, leave a comment if that's something that you would be interested in, or just share your thoughts, because the more thumbs up that I get or comments, that helps me know that, yeah, you're interested in hearing about this stuff, and it helps YouTube understand that you got value out of it. Because if you're sitting there going, holy cow, I've never thought of it like that, this is amazing, YouTube can't read your mind yet, and it only knows what you click on and engage with. So that would be a great way to help other folks like you hear a message that might help them avoid the same trials and tribulations that I've gone through. So I've crashed and burned, made it out alive, and I'd like to help you avoid that same fate. So help other folks as well if you found value out of it. And that's pretty much it for this one. I am going to trust YouTube to show you the next video that it thinks is most valuable to you. And as always, I always like to tell you, remember, if you can change your mind, you can change your life.